I'm saying that you are I can assure you that you know what this course is about, sports journalism. You can have an idea. It's like in our program in journalism, we do cover a lot of areas. Sports is part of it. So this is like for those who like to specialize in reporting about sports, anything to do with sports. So that's what we do with this sports journalism. And if you know sports, it's not one thing, it's not one activity. There are so many, I could say, categories or maybe sections or disciplines in sports. You're talking about football, you're talking about netball, rugby, basketball, hockey, golf, volleyball. I already said that. American football, which is called in America they say football. In UK it's called soccer, which is not football, right? So we have even martial arts, which would be maybe including people that would say gymnastics, marathons. So all those aspects. So the thing is, when we are reporting about sports, as you know that we journalism, we do report news stories. Let me just say that we do report events in forms of news, and we also write features and the other write-ups. And then when it comes to sports, you might think that I think we will do the way we do in other events, like normal in the news. We gather the information, then we write it in the report. But when it comes to sports, it's not like that, because there's a difference. In ordinary news, the way we write like national news, you don't predict, you don't know what to expect. Let me just say, you don't know what will happen. Most of the activities, you don't know what is going to happen. A few you might know that maybe there's going to be this issue, but most of the events that you are covered in the ordinary stories, they just happen spontaneously, then you report them. Unlike in sports, a majority of stories that are reported in sports, they are already known, they are planned before. Because if you talk about sporting events, they have got the sporting calendar. If you're talking about the football, so they have got the fixtures that you already know, that in June, there's going to be this, in this day, there's going to be this. So most of the news stories in sports, you plan. They are already planned, and also apart from that, sports usually is most of the times it could be maybe closer or maybe combined or related to entertainment. So it's more. Most of the stories are not like you don't expect to have a lot of sad stories or maybe shocking stories. Most of the stories are closer to features, the way we write most of the features, whereby you try to play around with language, because in ordinary stories, because of the sensitivity of the stories, you don't usually play around with the language, talking about using maybe cliches, using cliches, as you know, what are called overused phrases. The phrases whereby I talk about maybe this is a hard nut to crack. This is don't beat about the bush. Issues like those. You don't usually use them in ordinary stories. But when it comes to sports, because it's more of an entertaining issue, you usually use all those play around with, and there's an element of deliberately selecting action verbs, because you want it to be, to sound lively, right? So we have got all those issues, and apart from that, also the reporting in different disciplines is not just straightforward as the way you do, because each discipline in sports, they have got their own themes, in terms of the terms that they use in their game, is discipline. Because when you come to sports like basketball, you don't say if somebody has if the ball has been put inside the net, you don't say somebody has scored. There is a word for it. We're talking about dunk. So we have got terminology that is special for basketball, and we have got terminology that is special for football. We have got so as a sports journalist, on the other hand, it means you don't just say I'm going to be reporting about sports. It means you should be aware of the different terminologies that are used in different sporting disciplines. Because if you don't do that, you could be in trouble. You could be even laughed at. The problem we have now is because of soccer. You see, one of the most popular, sporting discipline. Most of the people around, they know terminologies in relation or relating to soccer. So you might think when you are reporting another sporting event that you use the same terminology. Somebody has a dribble or has a scored, for example, in golf. You cannot say if the ball has been put inside the hole. You cannot say somebody has scored. You don't do that. You see. So you need to be aware. You say, okay, golf. Then you do your research. What terminology do they use when somebody has put the ball? What is the ball in golf court? When is they move? So all the terminologies. So that's another area that as a sports journalist you need to be aware of, right? I don't know what because you are saying, I'm just trying to say what it is, but we did a little bit something like an introduction at the beginning. We talked about a number of issues in sport. Were you there the first day today?
I came in late.
Oh yeah. I was trying to even figure out that if you were here, I remember that you came late. Oh yeah. I remember now. Yeah, now I remember now. Okay, we talked about, it was very important. I think we talked about some important things because as we are going forward, what we talked about on the first day, if you don't know them, you might be a little bit in trouble because we talked about an issue like, well, that's the beginning where we began because we say, like in sports, we talked about you have what is called a sports department. If there's an media institution, then you are going to be involved in sports reporting. You are going to have what is called a sports department. Now, in that sports department, there's going to be a head of the sports department who is going to be the sports. What did I say? Maybe if you remember what I said in that. You did it, but I tried to just quickly run through what I talked about. But we talked about. I don't want to even just go back. Okay, let me just a little bit go back because I want us to be on the same page. Because it's important. The first part was important. If you cannot miss that part, I'm expecting that you're going to be in good hands. We talked about the sports editor. That's what we talked about. We said there's a sports department, and then on the sports department you're going to have a sports editor who is going to be the head of the sports department. Now, in the sports department, we're going to be having sports, let's say sports reporters. Sometimes, depending on how big an institution is, you might have maybe an assistant sports editor. Then you do that. But we talked about sports editor. Then we say, okay, before we go to the sports editor, let me just say sports department. Then you have what is called a sports or the sports desk. There is a desk for special for sports. If it's a room like this, if it's a newsroom like this one, the desk where I am could be a sports desk. And on this sports desk, it could be me. I would be the head of this sports desk, like a sports editor. Then I would have my sports reporters around. So whatever is going around here, I'm going to be the one who is going to be overseeing that. So there could be that business desk, that could be another desk. Then when you have the meeting, because in an institution like a media institution, senior people are editors. Those are senior guys. Now it means if you are going to be having this meeting for the seniors, I'm going to be the one to be in the meeting. Sports, maybe, I mean the business editor is going to be the one representing the business desk, all like around, right? So, but what happens on the desk, sports desk, is the job of the sports editor. Some of the functions of the sports editor, we say that like assigning maybe these sports reporters assignments, giving them assignments. They should go to this place, they should do this. If they can have their own assignment, you are the one who is going to just maybe to see what they have, to direct them, to tell them maybe this is okay or no, this is not okay. If they can have something like a write-up or maybe it's a feature. So you make sure that everything that comes out of the sports desk cannot go out without going through the sports editor, right? Like here, in general, the role of the sports editor in general, you say like the sports editor coordinates the work of the sports desk. So he coordinates the work, each and every work of the sports desk. He is the one who's going to be coordinated, right? So there's a lot, like even the budget, because in media institutions, you're going to be having specific budgets allocated for specific desks. That okay, this desk according to your activity, because you present your activities, and I think as I talked about, also we talked about we talked about what is called forward planning of this desk, because we said by the mere fact that most of the activities are already known in advance, it means you have time to plan ahead. So planning ahead on this sports desk is what is called forward planning. So it's an important issue, because if you can say why is forward planning important, there might be some other events that maybe requires a lot of money, even to be equipment. For example, there's maybe, for example, let me say World Cup. Then you know, okay, in December there's going to be a World Cup. It means you have to arrange the travel arrangements. That okay, what are we going to gather? Who is going to go there? How long are we going to stay there? How much is it going to cost? So you have your forward planning, and in a sports desk, or maybe let me say in this area, we said that there is what is called the accreditation. It's the same as the reporters. When you are a reporter elsewhere, maybe you have seen that there could be some other functions. Reporters are just, they don't pay. If they are paid, they will just be allowed. That's going to happen only if they have got what is called accreditation. So the accreditation process, it means you do it before the event. There are some other places where you know that you will go to make sure that you have got more like an ID to show that you are a reporter. So if you have sporting events, it means if you want to go to a sporting event whereby you don't want to pay, you want to go there as a journalist, sports journalist, it means you need to have to go through that process of getting the accreditation to be accredited. Then you get the necessary documents, and then you go. So, which means if you look at the forward planning, it's where you can discover that it's very vital. Because had it been possible, maybe in no more ordinary news, that would have been another story. But ordinary news is like there's a lot of breaking news. You don't even know what's going to happen. You have a clue, then you need to go somewhere. So you cannot say, the only maybe accreditation you can have, meanwhile, in ordinary, normal or traditional news is maybe as just a journalist or as a reporter. Not specific, but specific, you normally be as a reporter, but apart from being reported, because most of the areas you can go to cover all the stories, you don't have to pay. You don't need to pay to go there. For example, you want to interview a boss or company, you don't have to pay to go there. When you come to sports, rarely you find a place whereby you go to a sporting event which is free. Most of them you need to pay. So that's where accreditation is much more important in this side, because you need to know, make sure that you don't have to be bothered to be paid all the time where you're going. So if you can think about it, you discover that on a sports desk, forward planning is an important issue because you have time to prepare for all the upcoming events, and you know what is needed, and you know that's where your budget is allocated, because they will know what you need and they will give you a budget. And then, as I'm saying, a sports editor is the one who is going to see how that budget is going to be used properly. So it's your responsibility. If the budget is not going to be used properly, you are going to be answerable. You are the boss right there. They will tell you, maybe we don't have the money. Okay, where is the money? Where did the money go? So you'll be answerable. So you'll be making sure that, okay, let's allocate this money, like, let's use this money like this. It's another role of the sports editor. We talked about what else? I think we talked about sometimes that there might be instances whereby you might engage, let me say, reporters that are not employees of your institutions. These reporters that are not employees are called these freelancers, freelance journalists. The reason is there might be some other instances whereby there is an event, but maybe all your journalists are preoccupied by other events. Then you might engage freelance journalists, but it's now you, to the sports editor, you're going to be the one recommending to say, okay, let's engage this particular journalist or freelance journalist. And there's an important side of maybe engaging these freelancers. We say that most of the freelancers, they specialize in a specific field or maybe this or area. So if you have a chance to have that specialist, it means if that specialist can write a story, it will be a very good, rich story. Because, for example, you can have a journalist or many freelance journalists who specialized maybe in golf. So it would be that he has been covering golf for so many years. And the fact that he sells his stories, he cannot be a person without enough resources. He makes sure that he has enough contacts or adequate contacts or details, everything. So if you can have an article from a person like that one, it could enrich your desk. But it all has to go through as a sports editor. You are, I don't say that you are the manager, but through you are the one who is going to recommend a specific reporter to say, okay, this one could be good on our side. So that's what we also talked about. What else did we talk about? We talked about, the sports desk. On the sports desk, the sports desk, we also have access to copy and pictures produced by independent news agencies, right? So this is what I'm talking about. You can have from the freelancers, or even what I call independent or news, let's just say news agencies. Because I've said that news agencies, they are those institutions that gather news for sale. They do sell to different media institutions. An example of news agencies, like international news agencies, you know the Reuters news agency, Associated Press. Reuters is one of the most popular. I think you know Reuters. They write like the Reuters, like R-E-U-T-E-R-S. You can see some other stories you see like the Reuters, somewhere. That's Reuters. So it's a news agency. What they do? They have got representatives in all the countries in the world. So each and every anything that can happen in the world, in any corner of the world, if you want to get the story as quick as possible, you just want to contact Reuters. When you go to our website, what you do, you subscribe. So what they do, like I remember one of the shows, like The Nation, what they do, you subscribe, so they will give you a computer, special computer for Reuters. So when you go on the Reuters, you can search it for everything. I think you pay a monthly subscription. But what you do, because you subscribe, you have the right to use the stories, right? So usually, when it comes to international sports, especially international, because the local sporting events, you could go and cover yourself. Right? And as you know, in the news reporting, you are not the source of news as a reporter. You are just you just report. So there's no way you can get, for example, you watch the match, then you cannot say write a story about Manchester United versus Arsenal, and you being the source. Then so you say, no, did you go there? You were there. You are seeing it on TV. That doesn't make sense. But what do? You buy something like that one from Reuters. Reuters, they have good people who were there, right there at the place, at the event. So the source or the attribution will be, you just attribute it to Reuters. Reuters, in their write-up, they will be attributing to their reporters who were there. So most of the international, if you can go and check on the news, like newspapers, you like all local news dailies, like Malawi News, Daily Times, you have got the from the back side, two pages inside. For international stories. So if you check all those stories, if you check at the end, you see either they will put BBC, either they will put Reuters, whatever. But usually it's they attributed. But news agencies easy because sometimes when you attribute to an institution like BBC, BBC is not a news agency; it's just an institution. But Reuters or news agencies, what they do, they might sell you the story. They might even sell you the photographs, images. Like if in Malawi, or the news agency in Malawi news agency, maybe you've seen it, Mana. Sometimes you see a story and they wrote Mana at the end. So Malawi news agency usually they sell locally gathered stories. So sometimes on the Malawi news agency, sometimes you might right now maybe you don't have enough stories, local stories, then you go to Mana. Then you manage the government news agency, right? But sometimes you might have maybe shallow stories. But it depends on your scenario, because what I'm saying is there should be no way whereby you say you don't have adequate fresh stories. You as an editor, stories did not come up, materialize. There are a lot of ways. As I said, you need to know how things goes. Like you might have stories that you did not, because there are some other stories that they need immediate publication. But there are other stories whereby you might report them for over a period without getting stale. So you might know that, okay, these stories, I think we might not use it now, we may use it maybe even a week from now, it will be relevant. So you might keep some other stories like those. When you have what I call like dry days, that maybe stories are not coming up, use stories like this, okay? Can you bring me this story? Can you take this one? Maybe there's still a gap, then you think of a news agency, okay? But on the news agency side, it's not that you decide on the very same day to say, okay, let's subscribe. You don't do that. You have a subscription already as a news department. You subscribe it to news agencies, and you as an editor, you just have to make decisions to say, for today, I think we need to have this story from the news agency. And the way the news sports desk runs is exactly the same as all other news desks. Because in a department, a news department, what you do in the morning, around maybe 8 o'clock, around 8, you have a meeting. What I call it like a desk meeting, each and every desk. So in that desk meeting, each and every reporter will declare their assignments. Usually, like in Malawi, you tell your reporters to have a minimum of 2 ideas, news ideas. You say, okay, today I'm thinking of going to cover this. So you listen to, as an editor, you listen to the ideas, then you recommend okay, to say, okay, this is, you're going to go ahead with this. Or maybe don't do this, maybe add this. You do that. Because sometimes some people have an idea that is not maybe well articulated, or maybe they're missing something. So you as an editor, you are not going to be the one, no. I think when you go out for this, also maybe look into this. Also look into this. Or maybe don't look into this. Or maybe collaborate with this person. Or maybe check. So you need to be aware of one, other stories, other events, so you can coordinate what people are going to write, recommend them, recommend where to get the stories, where to get it from the other reporters as freelancers. So that's the whole issue. What we talked about, like on the sports editor role. So we also talked about one important issue, because as you remember, I've said that most of the sports stories that you cover, they are already, they are planned, because you already know when they are going to be taking place, where they are going to be taking place. So we say that because of that, it's like if you have events that you know that are going to happen, what do you have? You have a diary, isn't it? Most of you see the reason of people having a diary is that they want to make sure that they don't forget events that are happening on these particular days. Because maybe you know, this is there. So if you don't write it somewhere, you might forget about it. So you have your diary when you write. So in the, use on the desk, on the sports desk, you have what is called a sports diary. Sometimes they just call it the diary. So the diary is an important item, because I say that why the diary is important, as I've already said, that you have events that are pre-planned. So if they are pre-planned, it means you need to have somewhere to record the specific days, specific locations, and so that when the time comes, you should not forget about that particular event, right? So we talked about that. Let me see, did we talk about, and in terms of the diary, we think about different aspects of why it is important. It says, how do you go about it? You could go about it by thinking about your own diary. If you have ever had a specific diary as a person, you discover that it's helpful, because first of all, it will help you in the planning process, because you check, so there's this, maybe sometimes it was very far, or then when you check in the diary, you discover, the days are coming to a close. Then you have your planning, you do all the things, right? So the diary, it's one of the items that is very vital when it comes to a sports desk. Let me see what we talked about here. We talked about, we said, this is what it's been written. We said the key to the smooth running of the sports desk is the diary. So I think you'll see that the diary is going to make sure that it's going to enable the activities of the sports desk to be run smoothly. Because I think you already know whatever you do. If you plan, because it's going to be helping you in your planning, then it means you are at ease. Most of the time when you are stressed out, you are under pressure, it's because you had a poor planning process. But when you plan, you already know that, okay, it's going to go to be like this, then all the events, when you come to, the newsroom, it appears to be a simple issue, but when the stress comes up, because it is stressful, how is it? You have your plans, like sports, ideas, news ideas. It's simple in the morning. But the assumption is that when you have your news ideas, because what you do, you have each and every person who have the news idea, maybe two, and you have your pages if it's a print. Now, you decide to say, okay, only these stories, which is going to be our lead story, the main story. Even when you go to broadcast. You also have to decide which is the main story. When you go to your pages, a lead story is the one that is having a very bold and big headline. That's a lead story. Now, when you have a scenario whereby a lead story is not materializing, because it can happen. As I'm saying, that you cannot write a story without a source. So, key to getting a story, it means you need to have to be in contact with the sources. Sometimes the sources that you plan to contact might be maybe they could be unreachable. Then you could be and at the time is coming up that you don't have much time. So because of that, you will be under pressure. Right? So if you have that constant element of pressure because of maybe this is not materializing, and you have events where you did not even record it somewhere, it's easy for you to forget about the events. You discover you're doing something and somebody is reminding you, do you remember that you were supposed to do all this? Check the time, you were supposed to start 9 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. Things like those can happen. So you see, it cannot be a very good smooth run. But when you have a dial, it means when you're coming in the morning, only the morning meetings, you check the dial. You check, you come up with ideas, but also you check the dial. Because when you I think later on we're going to talk about sources of news when it comes to sports news. So when you go to the sources of news in sports news, the dial is one of the sources. Because when you go, it's like a calendar. Because you talk about calendar. Calendar is another issue. So when you go to sports, calendar is usually to talk about when it comes to no ordinary or news. They check on the calendar to see other events. Christmas. But when it comes to our desk, it's the dial. You check. So it might be that today there is a function today. And then when you go, so I've seen there's a function today. I'll go to this function. Right? So that's what we talk. So we say also another issue also we say because you can see that it will depend on the dial on this desk. So we say events that you do that are recorded in the dial, we call them we call them on dial stories. We call them on dial stories. That's the language that is used on dial. Right? So we have on dial stories or activities, then you have off dial. Right? So if you say, okay, this is I'm on a dial, maybe story or activity, it means the activity you want to do as early as possible is something that has been recorded in the dial. That you can say, there's going to be this function. But if you can have some other function that maybe just pop up, you didn't even know that they're going to come up, they were not even recorded in the dial. Those are what I call off dial. You say off dial stories. So you're going to have on dial stories, then you're going to have off dial stories. So as I said, the diary, we talked about the diary, is key to the smooth running of the sports desk. And as I would say, contrary to the popular belief, news is rarely something which suddenly happen on this desk, right? Most of it can be carefully planned for. And this is where the diary comes in, as I've said, because it's just an opposite to when it comes to what is called a national desk, whereby you cover national stories. Most of the stories could just pop up. When you're coming to work, you just have maybe a tip. This, that. Then you present it in the morning, you go. The next, maybe where you are, you also have a tip there. Then you go. So it's like that. But while on this desk, when you come, you just have to, most of the time, as I'm saying, you start with the dial. You check in the dial. Okay, this is a function. You're going to be the one. Okay, I'm going to cover this. How about this? So did this happen? Oh no. So if you want to make follow-ups, because you can make follow-ups and maybe more or less like predict some events that might pop up without you, or that you do not even write it and record it down, but you could have an idea because you could check on some other events. No. This event or there's going to be this function, but usually they will pop up maybe even on that we're going to talk about later, what I call post game, because when after the game you conduct interviews. Then on the interviews is where you could get some other reaction, because I was talking about the secret to this is desk that I observed, like where I was. And I discovered that the editors that were there, they used it they were trying to hide the tricks. I gave an example that we have a meeting, then I'll say I'll go to this function, someone's going to go to this function, right? Then we go. Maybe I'm pursuing 2 stories. Then the editor is on the institution. The editor the whole day did not move, did not go anywhere. But when maybe newspaper comes out the next day, you discover that there are maybe 3 stories written by the editor, including the name, written by the editor. While maybe you have wrote maybe 2, maybe 1, they are a little bit smaller stories somewhere. So I didn't wonder, how did this person not even travel to go anywhere, but he's managed to come up with big stories. And there's even some other guy that I knew who was writing like national stories. Most of the national stories, he was the one who was writing them. But when you meet him, you don't find him usually moving around. You usually find him at the office, he moves around. So that's why I discovered, no. I think having contacts is something else that is very vital, because the contacts, they will help you to know who to contact. And also clues. When you have the contact, because the issue is, I'm saying, you interview, officials, even players after the game. So that was one part of maybe having stories. You say, okay, you need to have as many contacts as possible. When you're saying contacts, details of possible sources, knowing that there is this football association, okay, I've got the contact details of maybe the head of the body. I've got contact details of the deputy. All those contacts. You have got contact details of different players. Something like that. So it means if something else just pop up, okay, there's this issue, you know who to contact without even traveling to go there. That's one aspect of it. The other issue I was saying that maybe this one is not related to this. I just said it randomly, which is important because I noted that one through experience. That one I just said that coming up with the headlines, because we should be seeing sometimes if you have noted, there's a difference between the way stories or even headlines of the sports stories in broadcast, which is radio and TV, and the newspapers. Why? There's a difference because usually in radio and TV, it's usually more or less like instant. The news, the match could be live on the radio, on TV, and immediately the game ended, you would have sports news. So when you have a headline like Manchester United beats Arsenal as a headline, that is not okay, because that's just what has just happened. But if you say, okay, by evening, we know that Manchester beats Arsenal. When it comes to the next day in the morning, we don't expect it to. If you can have a headline like Manchester United beats Arsenal maybe yesterday, somehow it can feel a little bit outdated. It was something like we already hit by the end of yesterday. Most of the people have known about it. But the aspect that you might not know is what is the coach saying about yesterday's game. Because that's a new angle. It's something that the people they don't know about. What are the players saying? What are the fans saying? So I discovered that professional sports reporters, what they do when they are covering a game, they don't just go and get the game details. Because that's another issue. Because you ask yourself, okay, these sports fans, sports readers, what are they looking for? We know the first thing they are looking for is the game results. How did the game end? So you know that, okay, they want to know which this team beats this team. But if you sit down and discover that, for example, if you show them, you discover they're not going to be satisfied that, okay, if everything is done. They need more than this team beats this team. So that's why you discover, no, it's not all about going and witnessing the game, okay, and then right, if this team beats this team, you end there. So how many things, what other things are going to be right? It's like you don't, but now when you go to discover, no. You need to go for the reaction. That's what people do. And I noticed that one of the editors, my editor, that's what he used to do. When the game ends, he's not going to rush to just say, okay, this is, no, he's going to rush to the reporter. And even you have seen it even on Sky News, they will interview the coaches to hear the reactions. And now when you are hearing the reaction, and also if you witness the game, you will be able to analyze the game. And when you say analyzing the game, is in all aspects. That the example would be when you listen to English Premier League, you hear the statistics, the way the commentators gives out statistics as the game is progressing. They will tell you this player has played this number of games. He has scored this number of goals. He has recently he was injured. And so it means if you have focused, for example, recently he was injured, then he did not play well in this game. It means you can analyze, okay, maybe the injury that this player had could have an impact on the way he performed today. Because after knowing the results, the audience would want to know why did this team beat this team. So you as a sports journalist, you should be able to be having those details, like background information of the team. How many games did this team play, all those things, and information on players, also information over the officials. So when you combine all those, it means you can be able to know exactly that. I think even sometimes you hear, like when it comes to, we're going to talk about that later on, like match commentating. Pre-game, during the game, and the post-game. There are different things. Because pre-game is before the game. What do you talk about? During the game, what do you talk about? After the game, like assuming that there is a sporting event that is going on. Pre-game is where we go to background and you analyze all those details. You say, okay, the last 3 games, maybe they played, they performed like this. Maybe they won, maybe they draw. Recently, maybe they have purchased this player. And possible if, based on maybe the past game, if they could put this player and that player and this, it could be a strong team. If they could leave, if they are going to leave up this player, I think you're maybe some other analysts who are doing that. Because that is sure. It's all about research, having the information. So when you have enough information as a sports journalist, it's easier for you even to make a prediction, even a correct prediction. You could even know, according to this game, the last 3 games, this was the player who was very vital. If this player is going to be absent in today's game, they might lose the game. And it will happen. It will happen. Because it will show that you will fall. Like, I'll give an example of like Manchester United versus Arsenal, the recent one. People who watched Manchester United, the recent Manchester United, under the new coach, they knew that this player, Casemiro, has been playing a very vital role in the midfield. So when Manchester Arsenal game was coming up, he picked up a second yellow card. He was not going to be there. And analysts who were making fun, they said, no, this is going to be a very big loss. Because what Casemiro has been doing in the previous games, he was tremendous. So if he's going to be absent in this game, probability of Arsenal winning is high. And you can see what happened is that. Because since prior to this game, Manchester United had won 80 games consecutively. Not drawing, winning 80 games. But only this one, and some others who noticed to discover that there is something that's going to be missing. One of the players that is very vital in the past games. So that's why you can see that as a sports journalist, what I'm trying to say, it means you should know that you don't just go there to report how the game has ended. you are more than you need to report and to have information on more than just reporting the results of the game. So, and when you have all those information, it's where now you are going. It's going to help you on the pre-game, during the game, and the post-game. So on the post-game is where you have those interviews. Because in the beginning, you might have interviews like pre-game, whereby it's merely predictions somehow. Right? But post-game is where you have a lot of reaction. People they really report. Many coaches they will tell you we lost this one because of the left. Right? The ref was not doing his job, or maybe the penalty was not the penalty. And most of the things that is talked about in post-game could make headlines. So in newspapers, that's where it is. Because newspapers is going to come up the next day, there's going to be a period that is going to take. So it will not make sense for you to have a headline that is as if the game just ended. To say this one beats this one. But what do you do? When they come the next day, you put a headline with the reaction. Maybe fans angry of this team's loss. Then you explain that. Then when you are ending, then you talk about yesterday's game. On Saturday, this one beats this one. That's the way it is. But when it comes to broadcast, because broadcast, as I'm saying, you cannot have the story like a sports story today, the same one tomorrow in the morning, similar fashion. I know it happens when it like even at times when it is in the evening bulletins. In the evening bulletin, because in the morning, reporters they don't go to cover new stories at night. So because of that, they just repeat what was doing in the evening, and then they will put it in the morning. But you cannot have a story that was in the afternoon today, then the same one is going to be in the evening, then tomorrow morning you're having the same one. That doesn't make sense. That's why I'm saying that or if you have time, that's what you do. You have this one today, you get the reactions. Because normally I'm saying the evening news, if it's a broadcast, it's the reactions and the game. You combine. Because it's like you already done the interview. When you say that this one is good, this one, you combine everything. The coaches are saying this one is saying this. So when it's repeated in the morning, it still sounds fresh. While in the newspaper, you don't have time to broadcast it, to publish it at this very same day. You're going to be publishing next day. That's why the angle of going to the reaction is much more vital in sport and in print. And unless maybe it's a win is a tremendous win. Because there could be a mere win, but there could be a win that is maybe, if you compare the reaction and this team beating this one, this team beating this one is huge than even the reaction. Then you maintain, and you see how you write. Not just like this one beat this one. Maybe it's a tremendous win. You put some other ways to just show that this is the main issue. You see? So as I'm saying, you as a sports editor, you also decide on those. You say, okay, because the issue is, if you see how broadcasting stories, sports stories, or even stories in general sell, and how print stories sell, there's a difference. Print, they sell mainly, number one issue is the headline. The headline, then even the next will come with the image, the picture. That's why I say in sports, when you as an editor, if you are selecting photographs in sports, you avoid selecting photographs that are of characters that are seeming to be inactive. Characters that are just showing as if it's a mug shot of someone who is taking a passport photo. You avoid such characters because it's dark. You usually take pictures that, for example, somebody who's kicking the ball. It should be action pictures. Somebody who's kicking the ball, or somebody who's... So you usually select all those pictures. And when it says sports, it looks lively, you see? Rather than just somebody posing. So you usually see all those posing pictures, like in the front page stories, on the national stories, or even on the national stories. Because I said, one of the key things to say if you want to have good pictures is pictures that can help you to tell the story. That's what I talked about. Okay, so I was saying that the another tip of getting good pictures for you as on your page, if it's a print, is you get the picture that will tell a certain story. Because I'm saying, you know the pictures. I talked about it. Pictures. A picture is worth 1,000 words. They say that. So if you know that a picture is worth 1,000 words, so you can have a picture that can tell a number of words. That and that thing, even no more ordinary stories. I think you've seen that they do that. The national stories. When they say, maybe usually I've been seeing international stories. They usually do that when they are talking about maybe Trump. I gave you an example. I say, just look at this mainstream media. When you see a story of Trump and it is looking like a bad picture, like maybe it's not looking good, whatever, just know that the story is not good. It's going to be a bad story against Trump. It's not going to be a good story. Try to do a research. Just go even around on the media, check where, and you can know that what they do, they deliberately select that particular picture to say, according to this story, we should be showing. I gave an example that in the past, there was a case whereby to show how biased some of the media were, whereby when they were taking Trump pictures, they were not even just taking a picture and putting it, but they were even digitally altering the picture. There was a picture of somebody, they digitally changed even the color, the tone of the color, whereby Trump looked reddish. So people say, no. This was not an ordinary picture. These people, they manipulated this picture for him to look like this. And they wanted to say, so some people, they produced the original picture. And they were preparing it. Said, no, this picture was altered. So why were they altering it? It's like they are trying to advance their agenda by using the photograph. They knew that, there's picture can tell a story on its own. So when it comes to sports, that is also needed to be kept in mind. As I said, that if you are working in print, what you do, everything you see on the page, you are the one who determines that. To say, I want to do. So when it comes to photographs, usually, if somebody captured some photographs, you decide which picture to use. If you don't have a picture of your own, you go to the library to select a picture. So the key to be selecting is in sports. That's why you select a picture which will tell a little bit of the story. That if you say this team the manager is happy, whatever, then you add a photograph where he looked like he was happy. Because sometimes if you pick any picture, I've seen in some other stories do that, whereby they just pick a picture randomly. You knew by how. When you read the story and see the picture, see no. This story, the way they're talking about, is not matching the photograph. Maybe they're talking about happy things, but the person looks sad. So that's why you see that selection of pictures is another issue that is also important. Right, okay, so it's more or less like I've gone through again to what I talked about, but it's important because I'm saying if we skip this beginning, when we are going to what we are going to be talking about later, it cannot make much sense because this is the foundation of us to know what this field is all about. Because as I'm saying, it's not all about to say reporting as just normal. You should be able to appreciate the difference of how this sports reporting is done as compared to other ordinary reporting, and you should not be surprised because sometimes when you check the page, you say, how do they write the stories like this? And it will be a little different because just check the story. Check the headlines on the actual pages, front page and the back story. You see, there will be different flavors. Even the photographs, you see, there will be different photographs. When you come to the end, it's a little bit breath unease. You a little bit feel a breath of fresh air a little bit. You could stay at that page for a while. Yeah? You look around. At the beginning, you just check the headline. If you don't like the headline, then you leave it. But at the end, you will be there, read a little bit, look at the pictures, do that. That's the thing. So, okay. Right, what else do we have to say this? I think I've talked almost everything I talked about last time. Okay. Right. What else do we talk about? I think I didn't talk about, there was something I want to talk about, did I talk about prospects? Yeah, I think I didn't talk about prospects. There is what is called prospects. We'll say, this is called prospects. I think I did it in this way I just talked about it this way. What do you say here? What are we going to talk about here? Okay. Let me just see. I think, let me do this. For now, so I don't know if you're really written. Just all these prospects, I'll talk about them, the coming class, because I thought that is just a small portion. See, like last time I stopped here, I wanted to talk about this, but because of the time again. So what I'm deciding, I think I don't want to just talk about them in just haphazardly. Where I'm going to start in the next class, I'm going to start with the prospects. But today, let's just continue with what I wanted to say today. There was the covering the game. No, what do we have? What do we have? Okay, we have a little time. Just talk one or two things. Okay, just a word here. Covering the game. All aspects of sports interest the fans. I think this one I've already talked about it a little bit at the beginning, whereby I was saying that covering the game is not all about getting the results. So when they say all aspects of sports interest fans, all aspects, not just one aspect. That's what you need to keep in mind. That okay, sports is everything. Connected with the sport, fans will be interested in it. For example, I think even nowadays, to the extent that you see a dog moving in the field, they will even talk about it. There was a big moment where there was a dog in the field, and the match was stopped. You see, maybe the player was angry and he wanted to beat the fan. Something although so you have all aspects of sports interest fans. But the most pressing question they want to answer is, who won? That's number one thing. You need to know that, okay, many things, they will be interested with all aspects, but the number one issue, they want to know who won the game, if you want or report it. Radio and television answer the question quickly enough for most games, as I've already said, because the radio and television, it's today. The game is today, they will report it today. So they will answer this question quickly enough in most games, immediately after the game we'll talk about it. But still fans want to know more. How the key play came about. If there was a key play in a game that will result maybe to a winning goal, how did it came about? Why did the star failed in the dash? Why did they perform poorly? What is the coach thinks about the game? What is the opinion of the team's performance? Right. So fans will read about the game already knowing the score. If the reporter can give them insights about the game, that's right. But most stories focus on a key player, a pivotal play, a change in the standing or a record in the game. So that's the thing. Other thing that you need to know. But what the thing you must keep in mind here is there is more to just giving them the results. Because of we talk about a number of things, even if people they already know about the results of the game, they might still be interested to read the story, right? Okay. So we have you're going to be having like what I call the game stories. If you want to talk about covering the game, I'm going to be having what I call the game stories that will be talking about the actual game, the way it was played in all different aspects. You're going to be having profiles, like for example, for the game for the game stories, coverage requires you're going to talk about the score as the game story. You're going to talk about the score, or let me say score line. You're going to talk about the key plays. How did the winning or play or the movement, I mean the movements or the sequence of the goal, how did it came about? You talk about that. You also talk about the players, how the players, who was the most outstanding player, who disappointed, right? How did the game impacted the log standing after this game? What's the impact it has had in terms of the teams standing on the log table, right? You talk about what? Say what we talk about here. Maybe the turning point of the game. Maybe there were some other games whereby they were the teams were, equal in strength, appearing to be equal in strength until a certain point. Maybe after this team scored, everything changed. So you will be able to be pinpointing that, okay, what are the key points in terms of the players, or how is the game affected the standing, which was the outstanding player, what is the score line. Also, it is going to be including like I said, turning games and also the post-game interviews. So all the things from the beginning of the game to whatever happens in the game to the post-game interviews. Those details will make up what I call game stories, right? So you will see that, okay, I'm going to cover, so I'm going to have a game story whereby you have to know all the aspects you are going to. And if you think about this, I'm saying, because sometimes when you go without knowing what you are going to report, only to be observing the outcome, you run out of what to say. You say, okay, this team has beaten this team. What else are you going to be talking about? That will be interesting. Because if you say, okay, I will report on the outcome, then I will take the background. That okay, in the previous games, that's what usually some other people they do. Or in the past 3 games, they want. But those details usually, they are the details that the fans already know. Okay? Somehow it will appear that I think you are lazy. But when you think about, okay, you talk about the score, you talk about who was the outstanding player in the game, who disappointed in the game, what was the changing, let me say, or what move led to maybe a winning goal. Then you talk about the turning point of the game. Okay, after maybe this period, this was the turning point of the game. Then you talk about, as I talked about, the key plays or the players, all those things. So it means you are going to have a lot of things to talk about of the same game, not just on the other previous game. So that will help you. And when you talk about, because as I'm saying, it's let me just say, the sports games and as a sports reporter, people around, they will expect you to say you are going to be writing sports games. That's what people. Game story. As what people are going to be expecting. But as I'm saying here, it's not only that as a sports reporter you're only going to be handling this. As a sports reporter, you're going to be handling game stories, obvious. Everybody else is waiting. Then you're also going to be handling what are called profiles. Apart from handling game stories, you're also going to be handling profiles. And this one happens because even when I was at Times, we had, I think you know BNL, they have got the Malawi News, they have got the weekend, they have got the Malawi News weekend, they have got the Daily Times, they have got the Malawi News, which is Saturday news, they have got the Sunday Times. So usually in weekend news, you have pages where you have profiles. When we say profile, is that it's a story, it's more or less like of a feature. You talk about the details of a specific popular sports personality. You know, maybe let me say a local Malawian, you have a player like Peter Ponda. For example, once I say I need to look for that article. I once wrote a story, a profile of Peter Ponda. It was a very good profile. Unfortunately, it's unbelievable. I kept the copy of the story, that profile, but I had a worker at my place, one of these a young worker. Now I had a bag like that. It was a brand new bag. So I kept my articles, the articles I wrote, pieces of articles were used in that bag. So what he did when I was going to work, you know, these workers, he was taking my things and then going around. He thought that I'm not going to notice. So he took the bag, while there were things inside, he went somewhere. When he was coming back, there were no papers inside. Nothing was there. Then I was questioning, no. Did you take this bag? No, I did no. In here, I left it. There were some other articles in here. There's this paper. There's no papers here. No. And now I had a basketball. I've never used that basketball before. It was a new one. So I say, when I look at the basketball, I say, no. This looked like as if somebody was playing the ball somewhere where there was dust. I don't know, but I said, no, I know. And then I made one of the leaders, and they said, no, why? I said, I think it's true. Because one of these days, he came at our place with a brand new bag. So I was asking him, where did you get this? I said, I bought the bag. So I said, all this he just stayed for, I think, within 1 month. You mean all this? Do you want this? You already bought the bag. So now he was exposed. Because he thought you are not going to. I said, no, this was exactly. And he was trying to be convincing me, no. But I said, I think you are good at lying. So he was the guy that I think I would have shown you as an example. Because that profile I wrote, it was a one page, Peter Ponda. So I employed all the techniques of good writing. In fact, the profile, the way you write, is as if you know feature, you don't write it as a normal news story. It's a creative writing. You employ all the techniques of creative writing. You could play around with words. You could do anything. So that's the good thing about it. So that one, I played around with words. Because how do you know that you have written a good piece? You know that you have written a good piece if you take your article and give it to your editor, and you discover that close to maybe majority of what you wrote is retained. They did not remove much of it. They publish the way it is, and you know that thing was good. Because if it's not good, you discover that you give them a lot of maybe the way you write, they will change it. They will remove paragraphs, and you know that I think it was good. But that one was one of the write-up I said that this was a good one because I knew what this was the profile, right? So I wanted to just let me write a profile that even the editor should not have a problem to say no, we don't like it. But you should say, this is good. But I remember you have to say no. I think he was just about. But you can see the way he's saying well, he's impressed with the writing. But I just want to say that there should be someone else. Not that it's not a good one. You could tell by the way he was taking, right? So that's the good thing about sometimes writing profile. Because when you are a reporter, when you are writing news, usually you don't concentrate on showing how good you are in terms of writing. You don't. You just follow rules. In no more than national news. The only way where you can show creativity in ordinary news is the headline. Because headline You just have to play the headline because you don't have space to talk. You don't write sentences. So what you do, you need to find a way of writing creative headlines. So like my boss, I applauded him because he was good at that. If you see most of the creative headlines by Times, he was the one who initiated that. I noted that whereby you play around even with by names of people by coming up with headlines. Most of the people, they don't think about it. For example, like when you say, like you have a story like a certain person, player called Peace Chawinga. Now they say that I think she lost his sponsorship or something like that. So headline comes like no peace for Chawinga. You see? But her name is Peace Chawinga. So you see, they use the very same name to come up with the headline. You can see that's how creative somehow it could be. So in terms of being creative in ordinary stories, even in sports stories, that's what you need to do. Think about the story you are writing. Can you use something from the same story, or even the name of the person, to play around with the headline? And when you do that, even people are impressed. Oh yeah, even there was this one. I think yes, I saw somebody else. They also used the name, his name on the headline, but it's like it had a double meaning. It talks about what has happened, and also it's the name of this person. You see, or like even the way international stories usually when they are talking about Tiger Woods, Tiger, the Tiger Woods, the golf player, yeah, like they could even say maybe most of them they say Tiger is back because he has been in quite a while, but you will say Tiger Woods is going to be back. Then he played 1 or 2 games, maybe he's not performing well. So they will say Tiger is not yet out of the woods. You see? That will be a headline. But you say this is Tiger Woods, but you say not yet out of the woods. No, it's still struggling. So you play around with that, and it feels like the way most of these creative writers, that's what the way they do. They think beyond the ordinary story, ordinary names. You say, how can I play around with this one to make maybe even a good headline? So when it comes to profiles, that's what you do. But what you need to know, as I'm saying, as the way it was at the time, they were saying you report it to, we were reporting daily on the sports stories. But one of the persons was assigned to say you're going to be the one who is going to be anchoring Malawi News and Sunday, another one Sunday Times. So when they say anchoring, you're going to write no more than the stories, then you're going to write a profile. So a profile, you write it during the week. You don't write the profile like today and then post it. No, you don't do that. Because profile is like you talk about the sports personality, everything. When he started this game, when he was born, when his career, which team did he play, what food he did, it's everything. So details like those you cannot just say if it's in print. You cannot do the program like that when you print. I mean, you write up like that when you print, like today, then you come out today. So what do? You write a profile during the week. When you are covering other stories, you also gather details for. But when it comes to broadcast, it would be done not in the same day because you still need to edit. Usually, maybe the only way you figured out, maybe in the head like people, but maybe you figured out a program where it's a live program maybe that people can come. But usually programs where they talk about profiles, usually most of them they are not live because you don't have you cannot give somebody 5 minutes to talk about his profile. No, it's like you have 30 minutes, even 1 hour. So usually they are pre-recorded programs. If it's in the news, you have. So kind of talking about this, a sports reporter handles the game stories, as I say. He handles the profiles, which are personality stories on the new players or athletes having outstanding seasons, games, and the like. So you write those personality stories, like profile, and also, in addition of writing these game stories in the profiles, you also write illegal and improper activities. Stories, let me say. There are stories now, they're not just because game stories we're talking about the game, isn't it? But you have seen even the other stories. These improper and illegal and improper activity stories are closer to the normal national stories. You could be covering a story talking about maybe somebody has a certain player has failed a drug test. You've been hearing about that. He has been accused of doping. So those are going to be like more like investigative stories. They are not going to be talking about the girls. They are not going to be talking about the profiles. But you are going to be talking about improper and illegal activities done by these athletes and players. So that's another aspect of a sports. Because I know some will think like when you say it's a sports reporter, you only talk about, a report about the girl and you end it. But these are the three areas that you need to know as a sports reporter you're going to be dealing. Like you're talking about illegal and improper activities, issues to do with payoffs to college players. Maybe you heard issues, stories about the match fixing. It's common nowadays. And I think it has just the recent one which I've heard. If you know a team called Juventus from Europe, you have heard about Juventus. I think Juventus has been deducted something like 15 points. Like the way nobody. So they were, I think, second or whatever. So they had dropped from where they were to somewhere mid-table. Juventus is a team where this player, former Manchester United player, Paul Pogba, you know Pogba, isn't it? That's where he has gone right now. He came from the same team. He went in there. He was bought back, so he was also irritated. So he has never played for Juventus, but now it's funny because he will say that I think he's leaving Manchester United because Manchester United is not in the Champions League. That's what people are saying. But now, the way they have done now, Juventus, they cannot go to Champions League. They are still going to go maybe Europe if they are going to be. So I think this is an irony. Because you thought that, by moving to this team, you're going to be in the Champions League, then you're finding yourself to a team that is going to also be, maybe they might not even qualify to move in the Europa League. But that's what's happening. So, if stories like that are like match fixing stories, what I'm talking about, the illegal and improper activity stories, and the payoffs whereby it's still the match fixing, whereby somebody can be paid to make a blunder in the game. It happens. You see, your team is seeing some of the games whereby one player could cost the team. And you tend to wonder, why did he do that? Maybe a keeper made a blunder. So there could be stories, but in that one, that's what I'm saying, that you're going to be covering them as the way you cover other stories. Because you need insights, you need to do a little bit of investigations. It's more or less like an investigative journalist. And you could be at risk, because the investigative journalism is different with the anonymous journalism, because the risk to a reporter is very high. A risk to maybe to be harmed, you know what, you report illegal activities. So you are reporting, I think you are saying, assuming Martha Zuma was a reporter. What is happening to Martha Zuma is what will happen if somebody was a reporter trying to report illegal activities that is happening up there. So what she's doing, she's trying to expose some other big things. Big guys who are doing illegal activities, see what is happening to her. They are trying to find ways to deal with her. So if you are a reporter, and and it's a little bit difficult issue, because some of these big guys, when they say a reporter, when you just introduce yourself that you are a reporter, they look at you in a certain way, especially people who are involved in some other illegal things. They want to be cautious. No. Because they know you are exposing them. They want to know exactly what you want. They will not tell you anything easily. They will question you to say, okay, and even if you go somewhere and when you introduce yourself as a reporter, they will tell you the boss is not allowed. Even if you saw him going inside, they will tell you, no, we didn't see. Especially if maybe you wrote, because the problem is, when you have these so-called sources, sometimes they will call you, because you discover, you will learn later when you talk about sources of stories. So you might have information about them, that they are doing something. You might be called by them. So usually when they call you, they expect that you are going to write a good story about them. That's what they expect. But unfortunately, when it comes to stories, as journalists, we are not told what to write. As journalists, you are directed, you are guided by news values. You see something that is newsworthy, that's what you are going to write. It's not that because you are being called to a function, then you should write about that function. It's not like that. You could be called to a function and you could discover that there's something that is not relating to the function, which is much more newsworthy than the function itself. You could write that one, but it could happen that maybe that thing is not it's negative to these organizers. Eh? So if you do something like that and you could sell, and they could be, well, so the other people, they'll be angry with you. So next time, when you go again, so I want something, so they are not happy. You see, I've seen something like that before, but I didn't notice it. Like there was a certain source, she was one of the officials of Network. So I didn't know that in the past they wrote bad stories about her. I didn't know. So I called her as a source. Because I said, who can I call? So they said they gave me one of the sources because she's one of the top officials of the Network Association of Malawi. So I called her and she said, oh no, I'm going to be around, but I'm going to be around 10. So call me then. So what I did was she said around 10. I didn't call her then. I just left, moved the camera and went in. So when I showed up and they saw me, she was there, but she was no. I told you to call me. Why did you just come in? So she was, and she almost said, no, I'm not going to give you the interview, but because I only there and there was the cameraman, I said, okay, I'll just give you the interview. Then she gave me the interview. So when I came back, I was like, why was this person rejected? I discovered, no. Like that person, even they said, who did you talk to? Come back, whatever. So I discovered, I think they had some other stories that were not in favor. Eh? So they become hostile a little bit. So that's what I'm saying. Issues like those are the ones that involve improper or illegal conduct. Because all the problems, it's like, I think that's why maybe she gave later. Okay? Because these sports bodies, they know that even in Malawi, they cannot survive without the media. They know that. If you can say, I want to be against the media, and if the media decide to be against you, you are doomed. Because how can the people know about your game without the media? Just think about it. There is a game somewhere. If the media don't cover it, how do you know? If you don't see it in the newspaper, if you don't saw it in the TV or the radio, how can the people? It's a problem, eh? So they know that we cannot survive without the media. So they can try to do that, but they will realize at one point that no, we still need the media. Eh? Because to clarify your side, it's the same as I remember the police. In the world, so there were instances where the police they've been against the media. I think that the media is against us. But you see, they still give me the media interviews. Eh? Because they discover that for them to be deemed in good light with the people, if there is a story which is bad for them, the story has been reported by the media. Because some of the people who are not clever are those people who just shut the media. They don't want them. Because the thing is, it's like you are fighting somebody has used the same tool to fight you. You use the similar tool to fight back. That's what you do. So if they have used the media to say something bad about you, you use the same media to clarify yourself. It means it's simple. But if you say, no, I'm not going to be talking to the media, it means what the media say, strike in the mind of the people. Your image is still the same. So the people they don't, but this say I'm saying they discover. So you're going to encounter something like that when you are reporting now on issues to do with the illegal and the improper activity. So it's a side that what I'm saying that some people there they could not know that sports journalists also report stories like this. As I'm saying that the normal notion is if you can even introduce yourself. I know in Malawi the only thing is because of most of the media institutions are not that huge. Most of the reporters they do report different things on sports. They will report business. You might have not specialists in sports. Some they do have specialists in sports. But when you say this one is a sports reporter, you don't expect that they will have anything like maybe reporting about illegal issues. You just expect to say, okay, they're going to be reporting about the game. Oh, tomorrow, what is the picture tomorrow? Oh, okay. How did this game end? Something like that. But as a person who has gone through to this course, you need to be aware that it's not all. Because I'm saying you might go to a place whereby you want to report, to cover something about the game, and you have observed that there is an illegal activity happening concerning sports officials or players. So, because you know that that's also what you are saying, that's your obligation. You need to report on something like that. It's a field which is recommended in the same area what you are going to report. So, that's what you need to keep in mind. Right. So, do we still have? I think we have exhausted a lot of things. I think for today we can pause it here because I will prepare another student class. But at least I'm trying to go through what we did and with highlight some other areas. When it come, we can come in the next class. I will talk about these prospects. Then I will also talk about with some other kind of stories, because I'm saying you have scenarios whereby you write stories. There's some other stories what are called advanced stories. Sometimes you could write a story before some other thing is actual happen. You know how. So I'm going just to talk about what advanced stories are. And then we'll talk about the preparation. How do you prepare if you want to go to a game? What do you do before what the actual things you need to do, and then after and after the game, what do you do? What are the tips for you after the game? And if you go this and even internalize it, you can see that it's important, because somehow what I noted through experience, when you go to a media institution, usually they don't tell you what to do as a reporter, as a sports. Because sports reporting, as I say, it's a little bit different. So they will take an ordinary reporter, they just tell you, okay, you're going to be on this consistency. And then they will leave you. Oh, there's a game, how can you go? So I remember what I noted, the other thing, like, they will tell you, okay, there's a game, you go to a football ground, and you discover that you'll be waiting for the game to start. But when you go and check to the tips that you're supposed to be telling you before, when you go to a game, you don't just go there and wait for the game. What you do, you go and you look for what is called a team sheet. A team sheet means you need to go to the other team to get the team sheet. They'll give you the list of the players that are going to be playing. They give the list of the players that are going to be on the bench. So you gather, meaning before the game, there's going to be a pre-game commentary. Because before the game, actual game, you have maybe a program, you talk about maybe the impact of this player, or maybe this player was injured. We don't know if the player is going to play, something like that. So when you say the game is about to start, when you have the team sheet, it's where you see, oh, this player is going to play, or this player is left on the bench. So it means the analysis up before the game, you can even know what to say, because you know that if this player is left on the bench, this is going to be maybe a problem. So that's the thing that you need to know. You don't just go with and sports reporter and wait for the game. No. You go to get the team sheets and other things. So those are the things that we need to talk about. That okay, what did you do before the game, and after that, what is called a game summary. How do you summarize the game after the game? What do you go about? Then I think we will see what else we can talk about from there. Issues to do with sports jargon later on, maybe the other class, and the other things. Right, but for today, we might just pause right there. And then let's. I don't do right, but this is the here one. Here. Okay. Usually it was different here, that's why I don't do it right. I need to be so sure. That is here. 4. Okay.